You all know me. Some of you have the privilege of knowing where I'm from, which is kind of this weird place called Social Circle. Let me tell you about Social Circle. I did my cold, hard time in this desolate place from the ages of 3 to 18. And then it brought me here. And let me tell you, this place is interesting. Like, you know, when you drive down the highway and you see the signs that say, heaven or hell, where will you go? It should be heaven or Social Circle, where, you know, that's like what it's like for me. Yeah, basically just hillbillies, mathematics, promiscuous women. That's another one. Yeah, so, you know, as the coming of age type deal, whenever you get to be old enough to drive, your parents are like, you know, get a job, user. So that's what I did. And the number one place I thought of getting a job was Subway. Anybody else here work at Subway? No? You? Let's go. I hate it. With the passion. Yeah, so I was a certified sandwich artist for 2 years. Sandwich So as a sandwich artist, you kind of have to learn the trade from another trustworthy sandwich artist. And for me, this was a woman named Jennifer. Now, Jennifer was forged in the fire of Social Circle Subway. Trust me, this woman was like a grizzled veteran. Food service workers in general, if you're a food service worker, I commend you, genuinely. Applause. You guys have the mental fortitude of Navy SEALs, genuinely. It is wild. Okay, so I'm you know, a new guy. I'm 16 years old. I'm working at Subway, you know, as you do. And I'm talking to Jennifer, and I kind of noticed she's a little robotic. And by robotic, I mean she stood at the veggie section. Y'all seen the video where Shorty is like nodding off all over the sandwich? Y'all see? Anyway, that's basically what she was. That was her role. And she stayed glued to the veggie section for the entirety of the shift. She would not move. So much to the point, I'm a nursing major, okay? To me, that's not sensical. I thought she had a catheter implanted. I didn't understand how it was possible. She did not move. And like, the Taliban could have besieged that Subway, and she would have responded with, like nothing fazed her. Like I got screamed at, cussed at, stuff got thrown at me. A woman peed at the drink machine. She did not react. She stood there, looked at me, and just went. So, one fateful day, I got really fed up with Subway. One of the closing duties is you have to put up all the veggies in the refrigerator. So, I'm bored. I'm a 16-year-old goofball. I'm still a big goofball if you know me. But I decided to get these pickles. The pickles there are, they're not very good in my opinion. So I was like, these are perishable. Nobody's going to eat these, and I'll have fun with them. So my friend and I, we get, I don't know, probably 20 or so, and we begin to throw them like saucers on the wall, and they're sticking. They're sticking to the walls, and I'm like, oh, man, pickle on the wall, it's funny. And so they stick, and they stay there, and I go about my business, you know, I finish cleaning up, and, you know, the pickles stay there. Well, as fate would have it, I open the next morning with Jennifer. Now, Jennifer, if she isn't already a ray of sunshine, she's even more of a ray of sunshine at 6 in the morning. So, she goes to the back, grumbling. She's kind of snoopering along. And then it was like she felt a presence when she walked back there. It was like the power of a pickle. She felt it. She looks up, sees the pickles. What have you done? So she goes over here, and she's like, I've never seen such urgency in anybody in the food industry. She's pacing back and forth. She grabs the phone, she calls her general manager. Sarah, oh my God, Sarah, somebody has thrown pickles on the tank wall. Sarah, this a cold blue pickles on the wall, Sarah, I need help, Sarah. Pickles are on the wall. What are we gonna do? I'm about to pull footage, Mason. Just a crisis. Get the National Guard in here. I'm just gonna get crazy. This is how she's acting. I've never seen her have this much enthusiasm. Okay? So, anyway, we go about our shift, and I'm like, cool, pickle crisis has surpassed. I'm cool, right? We run out of pickles. And I could tell Jennifer had cracked. She had lost her, she had lost any bit of fortitude that was left had been drained from her by seeing the pickle saucers on the wall. So, customer gets up to her. She realizes that we're out of pickles. She looks at me and she goes, oh, of course. Pickles on the wall, Mason. And I'm like, you're right. I'm at the cash register where that's where I was posted up at. They didn't trust me with a knife to cut bread. I know it's like a really, really difficult task. But I was just stuck on the cash register. And I'm like, okay, cool, yeah, pickles are gone. Big deal, right? They suck anyway. That's my personal opinion. Sorry if that offended you. So Jennifer goes back, peels off 6 pickles, dry, crusty pickles at the time. Peels them off, puts them on the sandwich. Now, you guys are... I cut you off. Oh, no, sorry. You guys are familiar with some of the greatest minds, like the Platos, the Socrates, Charles Spurgeon, shout out. Truly great-minded men. And I honestly think they would envy the words that came out of her mouth next. She meticulously places them on the sandwich. With such precision I've never seen. The likes of Chris Kyle envy her precision. And she goes, this is what she said, I'll never forget. Mason, pickles is gonna be pickles and I'm out this hot. Takes off her gown and leaves. Middle of the shift, pickles still on the sandwich, dry, crusty, like potato chip pickles. And she leaves. And that's my story of Subway and Social Circle. Now. This leads me into an interesting time in my life that Subway kind of drove me into. Like, you're a different level of down bad when you're working in a Subway and Social Circle. And I got really fat. I was humongous. In fact, the doctors told me I would be over 400 pounds by my senior year of high school if I continued to gain weight like I was. Pretty crazy. He said I was morbidly obese. At the time, I didn't know what that meant. I thought that was pretty crazy. Like, you're big when they have to add an adjective at the front of obese. Like, morbidly obese. You're not just obese, you're morbidly obese. So I was reminded of that, and I'm like, oh, that's cool. Hey, God still loves me, but I'm morbidly obese. And so, I kind of thought that was a token of honor. I'm morbidly obese. And I'm going about it, and I give all the credit to Jesus as to why I lost my weight, because if not, they would have had to add another category, and it was just, dang. That's what the doctor would have said. Dang. You're a lost cause, brother. But yeah, so I was big. Kind of reminds me, I'm a nursing major. Don't know how being fat reminds me of that. But I guess, it's not good practice to be obese and be a nurse. Anyway, we'll go into that. So I'm a nursing major, second semester. Anyone here a nursing major? I am alone in this world. Okay. You all have been blessed. So part of being a nursing major is you have to go do clinicals at hospitals. Cool stuff. In my third clinical, we were assigned a care plan. Care plan, you get assigned a patient, you stick with that patient for a certain amount of weeks, and you make a plan of care about them. Well, my patient's name was Sally. Sally, now of course it's not her actual name because HIPAA cannot tell her actual name. But I digress. I go and meet this woman, absolute nice lady, so sweet. She's complimenting me. She's like, "Oh,
You're a college boy. A lot of you college boys are at that college doing college things. And I'm just happy y'all are here taking care of little old me.
And I'm like, yeah, absolutely, 100%, I'm here for you. Come to find out, she's there for a hip arthroplasty, which is where they would surgically repair her hip. It had been broken. It's like, okay, cool. And she's like, every time I would go near her, she would kind of like change her demeanor around me when the nurses weren't present. It was really strange. Kind of just like, an eerie feeling. Like, there's nothing directly that was said, but it was like a presence. And she would be like,
I'm really short breath. I need you to check my lung sounds.
and I'm like, I got a stethoscope. Sure, I'll check your lung sounds. I'm like, cool. Nursing stuff. I learned that. I've been trained for this. The lungs are housed beneath. So I was like, let's listen to her back so we don't have to go there. And she's like,
COPD, they said you gotta listen to the front.
I'm like, okay, yes ma'am, I can do that. I do the deed, I listen to them, I peel them and I listen.
Yo, what?
I had to listen. That is what Sally made me do.
So anyway, this goes on for 3 consecutive weeks. Every time I go there, Sally wants me to listen to her lung sounds. I'm like, shoot, this is awful. Like, I have been pooped on before, and this was worse. I would rather get pooped on than have to do this. Like, to the point I was wearing 3 layers of gloves before giving a lung inspection. It was just gross. I'm not a fan of it. So I go and I write this care plan, and I submit it to my professor through email, and I'm like, she hasn't responded. Like, this is a little weird, because normally this professor is great about responding. And so I see her the next day after class, and I'm like, hey, what did you think of my care plan? She goes, your patient seemed great. Saggy Sally seemed like a cheerful woman. I had named the Google Doc Saggy Sally Patient Care Plan. And had submitted it to my professor. Had submitted Saggy Sally Patient Care Plan. And that was how she reacted. And I was like, okay, facts. Wonderful. So that's kind of my tenure in nursing school so far. That's like my biggest knock, Fishing. You guys like fishing? Let's go. So I went to Steenhatchee for my senior trip. It's a place in Florida where you catch fish. Wild, I know. So we go out, long day of fishing. I'm tired. I was also fat at the time too, so I was especially tired. And we get to the front of this dock, and there's this like chiseled veteran guy, like old. Have y'all seen the nuggets around here? He looked like a Galaga nugget, but in Steenhatchee. This is how this guy looked like, just chiseled. And I'm like, what is he doing? And I'm looking at him, and he's just like kind of making noises, but he's got this really big knife. And he's filleting fish for these people. I'm like, oh, that's chill. And so what he would do is he would fillet the fish that the people had brought back, and he would charge a price for it. Pretty cool. I mean, hey, I don't like to fillet fish. So anyway, I go and I'm talking to this man. I look over and he has this pit bull. I'm like, oh, that's a nice pit bull. What's his name? Princess. Of course, the pit bull's name is Princess. Completely harmless. My stepmom was there, and she's like, it's so cute. It's just the pit bull with the fish. It's just a little bay pit bull. And I'm like, it's a pit bull. Anyway, we go about our business. We give the guy our fish, and we're just hanging out. Pelican lands beside Princess. I'm like, they're friends. Symbiotic relationship, right? They're getting along. No. Princess demolish this pelican. Hops on the back, and it's like Mike Tyson, left, right, up, destroys this pelican in seconds. Whole time, brother is still cleaning the fish like nothing has happened. You can tell this was not Princess's first rodeo. She's murked a few pelicans in her time. She's murked at least 1 or 2 pelicans. I kid you not. He pulls a golf club out of a bucket and literally putts this pelican into the bay. And this pelican just falls in the water, and Princess goes, she just like sits on her throne, and she just returns. And like, it stuck with me. Just this pit bull murdering a pelican. So, yeah. Now, although as an RA I have not seen any pelican incidents, I have had already in my 1-week tenure a very interesting occurrence. So, as an RA, everybody knows you have the funny little door decorations all over the door, right? I think they're pretty neat. I like them. And I probably have, I don't know, 10 or 15. And, oh wow, I shut the power out. Who set off an EMP, bro? Anyway, so, yeah, so I got these door decks all over my door. And I'm sitting in my room, and I'm just hanging out, right? I'm sitting there, I'm in my boxers and like a muscle shirt. I'm just hanging out. I hear these voices coming from the hall. And these voices, it's like a platoon of females. They're just in the hallway at like 11:30 at night. Piques my interest. I'm like, why are you here? I just want to see. So in my like kind of stupor, I walk out, I open the door, and I'm like, can I help you? I kid you not, one like emerges from the crowd as if they chose her. And she's like, hey, we're just hanging out, you know, do you live here? Yes, I live here. Is why, yeah, who could have guessed? I'm R.A. Mason. Hey, crazy shot. She looks at me and she goes, oh, an R.A. I'm an R.A. Wow, we have that in common, right? I'm like, no, we don't. I didn't know you. And so I tell her, I'm like, is there any reason you're here? Like, why are you in the hallway conversing? And she's like, well, this guy I was with let me in, and I was like, you or this platoon of women? How did you get in here? And why are you in the hallway? Like, there's somewhere you have to be, and it's not out in front of my door. And so I'm like, listen, if y'all aren't going to check in, I'm going to have to ask you to leave. They didn't leave. And I'm like, okay, so how do we go about this? I'm like, police. Number one way. I'm like, hey, UNGPD is going to be on the way if you guys don't leave, or I'm going to call my residence director. Draven's a scary man. You don't want Draven showing up in your hallway at 11:30 at night with his pit vipers on. You don't want to see Draven with his pit vipers on. So anyway, I'm sitting here, and these women, and the appointed one who emerged from the crowd, is still trying to convince me she's an RA. I'm like, you are not an RA. We went through Hell Week together 2 weeks before this as all RAs. I know you weren't one of them. She's like, I swear, I'm literally in Sherm. I'm in Sherm. I'm an RA in Sherm. I'm like, it's not a residence hall. After I said that to her, completely stripped her of her confidence, she corralled her women and they left. It was a beautiful thing. They just left. It was like an exodus. They exodus, all in unison. They just left. And so that leads me to my time as a resident in Lewis Hall. Yeah. Anybody? I actually have the pleasure of working with my former RA, Casey Amon. So I told y'all I was a nursing major. Yeah. Literally was going through the hardest class in my life, microbiology with Paul Johnson. Wicked course, absolutely wild. And I had my first lab exam living on Casey's Hall. I'm rooming with, at the time, a gamer. Guy's a gamer, like top 50 in the world in COD. I don't know. Bro's out there, like he's nasty. And so that type type of skill requires some dedication. So me being a supportive friend, I was like, I'm not going to say anything. He can chill. And so I'm like, I tell him, I got a lab exam tomorrow. Let me just go to bed. So it's probably 10:30, getting close to my normal bedtime. And I get ready to go to bed. And I start to fall asleep. I'm entering peace. And I hear, bro, he's one shot. Bro stands up, kicks his chair over, and storms out the door. I'm about to enter into sweet bliss. I'm about to go to sleep, and this is what awakes me. I roll over, and I'm like, bro just had a panic. Like, what happened? He comes back in the room as calm as a cucumber, and I'm like, hey, bro, are you okay? He's like, yeah, dude, I'm just really stressed out right now. I'm like, I don't know if you can relate what that's like, being stressed. I'm like, yeah, dude, I wish I could share the feeling. I guess I just don't know what that's like. So then he chills out. He gets off the game. Thank the Lord. I'm like, oh, I can finally rest. Well, Casey had a very, very outgoing hall first semester of last year. And so I'm like, okay, they're being a little loud. There's one particular guy who is like the absolute definition of a gym bro. And dude's like, bro, my lat spread is like absolutely crazy. And they're screaming. And I'm like, sick, bro, you work out, cool. And then I hear something hit my door. And I'm like, you've awoken an animal. So I get up, I'm infuriated. It's like genuinely the first time in college I've been angry to the point of like considering physically harming someone. And I'm like, I open the door, I literally say a prayer before I say anything. And I'm like, I walk over to them, this crowd of people, whom of which Casey was there, supposed to be. And so I walk over, and with all of the power I could muster, I said, can y'all shut the hell up? And I stare at them all, and I let them know how I feel. I was so angry. A man, kind of like the woman I was talking about, emerges from the crowd, holding what I thought at the time was an eggplant. It was no eggplant. And he just goes, freeze. And I'm like, I am livid. I'm literally so mad. I don't know what to do. How can I combat that? It wasn't an eggplant, guys. It was what they were throwing at my door. I'm sure you can put together what I'm saying. So I go back to bed. I cannot win. I go back to bed. Literally, it was the most crushing experience of college. Anyway, Casey apologized. It's all right. Lat spread, bro. He's like, yeah, I'll go spread my lats somewhere else. Sorry, bro. I didn't know you were that passionate about sleep. Sorry, us mere mortals need to sleep sometimes. I mean, I don't know. And so that leads me to the final story of the night. The final story, or at least for me. I guess I'm just. Anyway, so final story for me. So I used to live on Paul Nichols Hall. Paul Nichols literally is one of the men that inspired me to be an RN. Amazing guy, Paul. And Matthew Messer was on my hall. Let's go. If you guys ask Matthew, hey, is Catherine Gano in here by chance? She was also in Lewiston. Anyway, I'm setting the stage for you guys. This is kind of like the people who were around me. And so there was this one gentleman, beautiful ginger man. A beautiful ginger man who was 23, living with a bunch of absolute goofball 18-year-olds. And he's in a single. He walked around wearing a flannel. His name was John. Now, John quickly became one of my favorite people in Lewis. I had just gotten off of a shift. I'm tired. I'm ready to go to bed, but I know I have to go back and deal with a gamer roommate, and I'm like, "Frick, bro, let's see what John's up to." I knock on the door. Bro has a deck of Uno cards waiting, and he goes, "I want to play Uno with you." As if he knew. As if like he had gotten a message from God that I was coming. Like he's waiting. And I was like, "John, I'm not playing Uno with you." Mason, we can play Uno tonight, right? And I said, "No, John, I don't think we can play Uno. But I know what we can do. I know what we can do." So I was a server at the time at Emma Falls State Park and Lodge. And I had gotten tipped a nickel that night. A nickel. Now, I don't know about y'all, but jingle change, completely useless to me. I have no desire to carry around stupid coins like we're in the old days where 4 shillings for a piece of bread, please. I'm not that guy. So I'm like, "John, I know what we can do. This nickel. We're gonna have fun with this nickel. I know what we're gonna do." So I told John, "Have you guys ever played Among Us? Y'all know Among Us game? Yeah, y'all know what Among Us is." So John was in love with Among Us at the time. John loved Among Us. And I'm like, "Okay, sick. I know what we're gonna do." Catherine Gano was sitting at desk. And I'm like, Catherine is a very understanding resident assistant. John was John. And I said, "John, I want you to figure out a way that you can earn this nickel from me." And without hesitation, he sprints to the Lewis desk and he goes, "Among Us!" Runs back to me, and he's like, "I earned your nickel." And I said, "No, my friend, you have not earned this nickel." And he's like, what are you talking about, Mason? I just wanted to play Uno with you. And now I can't even get a nickel. And I'm like, "No, John, you must do it again." He runs back, screams Among Us at this poor desk-sitting troglodyte. I'm sorry, Catherine, if you hear me. You're not a troglodyte. Anyway, and he runs back, and he continues this cycle probably for 5 minutes. And it's to the point where it's borderline harassment. And I'm like, "John, here's the nickel." I go hand him the nickel, and I pocket it, and I run away. And then John I'm not going to say his last name. Sorry, I don't want the single ladies to try to find him. So I run away, and that was my tenure at Lewis Hall and Lewis Annex. Yeah, I think that's about it.